Today, we are glad to have Alicia join us, and she has a remarkable record of growing her own LinkedIn followers in very few months, and it's really impressive, and I learned a lot from her post. Well, Alicia, can you introduce yourself for us, please?
Thank you, Adam, for having me. Yes, I used to work at LinkedIn. And when I was at LinkedIn, I was advising those multi-billion-dollar companies on how to show up on LinkedIn, how to craft content, how to grow their following, how to generate leads for their business, all of those things. But I actually had never posted myself. So I was just like talking the talk, but I haven't walked the walk, as they say. So I made that commitment that I'm going to grow my own following, and I start putting out content myself so I can actually properly advise companies on what they need to do, how it feels like, etc. And this is then where everything snowballed, because I really enjoyed putting out content, but also it worked so well that so many doors opened for me that I in the end decided to leave LinkedIn. And now it's my full-time business, basically helping other people with their LinkedIn and helping them understand how they can grow their following, their influence, and become like the go-to person in their industry.
Well, that's really great. It's always nice to have the freedom and run your own business. Actually, just like we talked before, the recording, I also benefit a lot. Even I'm only having 800, nearly 900 followers, but I still got lots of chance. And it's really thanks to you. I have to also mention about 2 interviews that you did before with the future of skills and technically creative by Kubri Labs.
Yes.
I hope I pronounced right. So yeah, those interviews is really, really nice. I suggest if you are being interested in growing your LinkedIn followers efficiently, you should definitely go to have a look about this. So let me ask you a question. I know it's big, but let's try to make it clear. How you became a LinkedIn influencer, or let's say key opinion leader in a short time.
Oh, yes. This is actually a really good, really detailed question. I try to keep it short, but basically, first of all, you need to understand for yourself what's in it for you, because it will take work and effort, and there are strategies, and we can dive into those. But first of all, you need to understand why you're doing it. What's the end goal? Like, what is in it for you? For example, if you're an employee and your employer is telling you, you need to post on LinkedIn, you're not doing it because you don't understand what's the benefit for you if you do it, if you were to just do it for your employer. So really understanding doors will open for you, for your own career. It's an asset into your own future, because whatever you're doing, whether you're an employee and you want to stay at the company, but you want a promotion, the more visibility you have, the better it is. If you want to leave the company, you can build relationships with other companies that might want to hire you. Or if you want to have your own business, you have your own audience. So it is just so much easier to sell and generate leads when you have a presence. So once you understand what's in it for you, it makes it so much easier to stay consistent and stay on it. And I was a little bit hardcore, because I publicly announced, it was back in February, so just about 7-8 months ago, something like this. I was at 2,000 followers, but to be fair, 2,000 followers sounds quite a lot, but I accumulated them over my career. So those were ex-colleagues, people I haven't spoken to in years. They were quite dormant, quiet. I haven't really mobilized them. And then I publicly said I'm going to grow to 10,000 followers within 3 months. So I knew I had a deadline. I wanted to accomplish something, and I made it public. So I had to stay with it. And that really helped to, as I said, stay consistent. But that also forced me to learn all the techniques, everything I need to do. Obviously, at this time, I still work at LinkedIn. That didn't necessarily give me an advantage, because nobody knows the algorithm. You can try to understand how the algorithm works, but it's not that LinkedIn puts out a document and says, this is exactly how the algorithm works. Take it and cheat our system. They don't even tell their internal employees. Trust me, I went down a rabbit hole internally trying to uncover how it really works, but they don't share it because the risk is just too high. LinkedIn has 20,000 employees. If they were to put that out for the employees, of course it will leak outside somehow. And once it leaks, basically people will try to cheat the system once they understand how it works. And that's not the purpose of it. And exactly as you said, you can also have a lot of influence with a small following. You just need to do it in the right way. It doesn't matter if you have 100,000 followers or 100 followers. If those 100,000 followers have no interest in buying what you're trying to sell, then there is no point. So yeah, I went all in for 90 days, and I did, luckily, thank God, one day before my deadline, I hit my goal of 10,000, which is also, it shows you have to stay consistent, because I was at only around 8,500 a few days before the deadline. And then I put out a post that went absolutely viral, and that got me over the finish line. And that shows you never know, your next post might be the one that takes off. You never know. So you just have to keep at it and keep believing. And I pause here because I could talk about this for hours nonstop.
And I think there is one thing that I see that you are, let's say, consistently take it as a principle is like authentic, right? You're like really being yourself. Sometimes you even use F word. So I was wondering that, do you think it's also one of the criteria to grow fast, or let's say a something that you really think it's going to be consistently effective when you are trying to gain more attentions?
Yeah. Oh my God, this is so important. And I love that you bring this up, because for so many reasons. One, so many people use AI these days that everyone sounds exactly the same in the feed. And how are you standing out? Like, how do you show people who you truly are? People buy from people. People make emotional buying decisions. They buy from you because they trust in you and they like you. And then they justify their buying logically afterwards. But they already made that decision emotionally, a gut feeling, because they like you as a person. So you have to show up as you. So you find the people that want to buy from you. That's the first thing. So how can you stand out, and how can you buy? But then also, you don't want to pretend that you are someone else. When people then jump on a call with you to learn more about you and you sound completely different, that diminishes your credibility instantly. Yeah, so basically authenticity is absolutely key. It is absolutely key, because how can you sell if you're pretending to be someone else? And also, this is why a lot of people say like LinkedIn is so boring and so polished, and sometimes people feel like, oh, I can't post on LinkedIn because I'm not there yet. I'm not the expert yet. Like, who am I to say or advise people on doing X, Y, Z? But actually, the beauty is in saying, this is where I am in my journey. This is what I'm learning, and I'm sharing my learnings with you. And I clearly say, I'm figuring it out. This is what I'm learning. This is building credibility at the same time. You don't need to be already there to teach people what you're learning or what you can do. You can do this early on in your journey and just be transparent about where you are in your journey.
Mm-hmm. And do you think to show people that you are not AI or who you really are, the photo, let's say the visual, is also like a big helper?
Absolutely. For two reasons. One, 85% of people use LinkedIn on their phone. So when you scroll and you have an image that goes with your post, first of all, that grabs more attention because you fill the screen more than just like a little text. But then also, obviously, people get to know you much better. And then also, again, like if you're just showing up in a polished way in a meeting room with like a filter and just always like perfect, they don't see the real you. So I always make a point of like posting some hideous pictures of myself. Obviously, it's still LinkedIn. It's still like somewhat professional. But I show pictures where I'm eating, where I'm not perfect, where I'm talking and my eyes are crazy in my hands, because I just want people to understand that this is me. I'm human, and also I'm humble. And like the more you can be relatable to other people, the more likely they are to like you, and in the end, buy from you.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that's also why I start to post more photos or videos that I will call it like imperfect, because that actually shows who you really are. And I'm kind of accepting to have some, let's say, lightning problem or maybe weird face of me.
Embrace it. Embrace it. That makes you human. But also something, and this might be a little bit advanced, but if you are posting on LinkedIn and you want to grow your following, you need to be aware that when you post pictures of yourself all the time, people are not as likely to repost your content. And obviously, if someone reposts your content, it will be shown to their audience. So it has a likelihood to go viral. So not everyone wants to repost a picture that has our faces on it. So what I always advise is have a bit of a mix. show your face a lot of the times, but also have some posts where your face is removed. So you have the chance of hitting like that jackpot of going viral.
Yeah.
But then also, having said this, we now see more and more that a lot of posts with a face can also go viral. That post that went viral for me, it's like at 7,000 likes by now. It's insane. That one has my picture on it. So it can go both ways, but also in terms of like building authority and thought leadership and credibility, it is good every now and then to put like an infographic, a cheat sheet, a carousel that really shows like in-depth. For example, as I said, like, what are you learning? What is a key takeaway from a conference you've been to, etc. If you put this into written text, it just looks a little bit more professional. So every now and then, put those like non-face images onto your LinkedIn, and that is a great way, like a hybrid way, to build credibility and also your following.
I guess that's also about the content, right? The content you show with your face. I guess that's also brought those kind of reposts and the go viral effect. Can you tell us what was the content you wrote with the viral? You said it's 70,000.
7,000. I wish it was 70.
7,000. Yes. What was the content about that post?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm going into it in a second. But first of all, your audience will decide whether they like your content or not. People love to blame the algorithm or external circumstances, but ultimately what you're putting out, if that resonates with your audience, so the connections that you already have, no matter how large it is, LinkedIn will have a look, the percentage of people that see your post, whether they engage with it, whether it then will spread further and further. There, again, nobody knows the algorithm like completely, but there is a mixture of like how many people engage with it, whether LinkedIn deems it to be valuable, etc. But in any case, if your content is not good, it will not go viral. That's the bottom line. And I know it sounds so simple and basic, but you need to make sure the content is good, but also the content needs to resonate with other people. So it needs to like trigger emotions. It needs to make them feel something, while it's also at the same time provide value. So this is why LinkedIn is a professional platform. So you want to educate them, you want to provide value, you want to also, as I said, trigger emotions and make them feel something. So the post that I put out was actually around my own journey, my transformation of having been heavily overweight, being in an unhappy relationship, and basically completely transforming my life. And it showed a picture of myself from just a year ago and a picture of now, and then saying what happened in the last year. And it was very motivational. It was very much written in the way of, you can completely change your life in 12 months. Like, look, the hardship I've been through, the radical changes I made, and this is the outcome. So this is exactly, and to be fair, this was a fairly personal story, but it still followed the same like format of like, this was the situation, those were the struggles, this was my breaking point, this is what I did. So this is the value aspect, like this is what I changed, and that's what happened then. So it has like a bit of like the storytelling arc, but also it's packed with value. And I made people feel a lot because I made them feel very, yes, if she can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, that's the story not that far from us. And you just show it can really become true. If you just do it, you can have the chance to have it if you do it with the smart way.
Exactly.
Yeah. And if we talk about, let's say, a part of the content strategy, I saw there are some, let's say, perspectives saying that you should share 65% or nearly that percentage of some content that is not that serious to get to let people knows you, or maybe it can go viral easily. But the rest of the 35% or 40%, that it should be like super hardcore, should be professional. What do you think about this perspective?
I think about it on similar lines, but not exactly in that way. I always think content should be valuable, but it doesn't need to be as niche down and as nitty-gritty. So what I always say is, consider your content as a marketing funnel. So we have the top funnel, middle funnel, and bottom funnel. So top funnel content, this is similar to what you were saying, like in terms of like the not so serious content. So I always say around 75% of your content should be top funnel. And top funnel means it is designed to go viral, to draw all eyeballs onto you, to get people to get to know you in the first place. So this is designed to speak to a wide audience. In terms of themes and topics, this could be something that is happening in the news, and you put your own angle and spin to it based on what industry you're in. It could be a motivational post like the one I did about my life. It applies to anyone kind of. It can be a general like how-to guide, a checklist, something like this. But for example, I now work in personal branding and LinkedIn. If I consider a post a top funnel post, I would talk about marketing because that's the broader aspect. If I were to talk about like personal branding on LinkedIn, that would already be a little bit too niche down because I already narrowed down the audience for whom it is relevant for. So when we go further down in the funnel to like the middle funnel content, this would be the content where you explain, oh, I worked with this client recently, this is what we did, and that was the outcome. So, or content that is more niche down, as I said, like personal branding on LinkedIn. So this is only relevant for people who already know you, who already follow you, and this is where you build the credibility and the trust for them to buy into you. And then bottom funnel content is literally the one where you try to convert them, where you try to sell to them. And I say to keep this at like 5%. So top funnel 75, middle funnel 25, and bottom funnel 5%. You don't want to piss your audience off by just selling at them. They will hate it. But then also if you are just doing top funnel content and you never sell, you're not selling anything. So you need to have a good like mix. And that's kind of how I see it.
Oh, that's really a great point. I believe lots of people can benefit from it. And in the interview and also on your LinkedIn posts that you mentioned about a principle called 20-20-20. Can you also explain about this?
Yeah. So I came up with this when I was still at LinkedIn and I was growing my own following because I needed to find a way of staying consistent because posting content on LinkedIn is just half of the equation. I would say in order to succeed on LinkedIn, 50% is content and 50% is the engagement in the background. So this means sending connection requests, sending comments under people's posts, and being active in the DMs. Because the way how LinkedIn works is it will show your content to those people who you have recently been in touch with because they think, oh, you met John at a conference the other day, you spoke to him in the DMs. Surely your content is now relevant to John because you've been in touch with John. Or if you are active in the comments, again, like this is how the algorithm works. They want to figure out what you're interested in, who you're interested in, so it will show your content to those people. So on the engagement side, there is so much strategy to it on how to make sure you engage with the right people, and I'm happy to dive into it. But to give a bit of an overview on like the 2020 method is I wanted to have a bit of a structure that I know every day, this is the task that I'm doing, and I stay consistent because I know if I do this every day, I will see the results without burning out. So the 20-20-20 rule is basically saying 1 hour on LinkedIn every day. And I know for some people, it's like really, wow, an hour every day. That's like 7 hours a week on LinkedIn. To be fair, if you want to really accelerate your growth on LinkedIn, that's the work you have to put in. And it is hard in the beginning. It will get easier later on once you have a bigger following. But if you want to go hardcore, you have to do it. And then within that 1 hour, I split it into 3 parts, 20 minutes each. So the first 20 minutes, I would comment under other people's posts. And I can dive into like my commenting strategy to make sure that the 20 minutes that you spend on commenting, you're commenting on the right people. And then 20 connection requests, which kind of equals to like 20 minutes as well, because with a premium license, you can send 150 connection requests per week. You don't want to send them all in one go. LinkedIn would hate for you to think you're like a bot or automations. We don't want your account to get restricted. So split it by day, 20 connection requests per day with a personalized message and an open-ended question. Also happy to dive into those strategies. And then as you get answers and response, then the second 20 minutes is being active in your DMs, responding to DMs, messaging people you're already connected with that you want to add more value to. So this is basically 1 hour on LinkedIn every day, split into 3 parts. And that helps you stay consistent. You block it out in your calendar and you just say, every day at 10 a.m., this is my LinkedIn hour.
Yeah, actually, I think if you mentioned about like 7 hours per week, considering about you're building your own business, that's not much. That's an investment, like you said, you must put inside. And like you said, it's going to bring, let's say, a snowball effect, going to take off your career at some point. And I believe that you mentioned about I call it magic number. In another interview, you said when you reach 6,000 followers, everything's become like more easy. Is it right?
Yeah, absolutely. It is kind of like exponentially, because of course it makes sense. The more followers you have, the more people will see your post, the more opportunities you have for other people to repost it, to do something with it. So it will get easier also. And I hate to say, I know follower numbers are a vanity metric, but at the same time, if someone lands on your profile and you already have a decent amount of following, your credibility is just instantly raised. Like they are more likely to accept a connection request from someone who has 6,000 followers than someone who has 800 followers. So the grind is really hard in the beginning, and then it gets easier and easier. This also means what I was saying in terms of like, think of it as like a marketing funnel for your content. Normally what I say, if you hit around 20,000 followers, and I know we're looking into the future here, but then you can also shift. Then you don't need to post as much top funnel content anymore. You can then focus more on the middle funnel content because you already have such a large audience that you don't need to grind as much anymore to get new followers, because they will automatically come. So you can focus a bit more down onto converting them and monetizing them. But in the beginning, you have to grind, but it will get easier. It's hard, but also it can happen really fast. Like as I said, like within 3 months, I grew by 8,000 followers. And anyone who puts in the work can do it, but it is a lot of work.
Yeah, got it. And now how many followers do you have?
Around 28,000 followers. Yeah, but I also, what I really realized is once I've hit that goal of 10,000 followers, I didn't set myself another goal. So I kind of like, I didn't follow my 20-20-20 method myself anymore. Like, you slack. And this is why it's so important to have like a goal, a metric, and hold yourself accountable to it. Now I have like other goals, and like LinkedIn is still left, right, front, center for me, but I'm no longer I'm no longer as obsessed in growing my following. Now I'm more obsessed of like, how can I build my business? But yeah, when you set yourself a goal, you will achieve it. You just have to stick with it.
Yeah, be consistent.
Yeah.
You mentioned about there's a comment strategy that you are using. Can we go into details? I guess there are something that I already saw. It's a no way to deal with it. So first is you just sent, wow, great, thank you. It's very insightful, and that's it. There's no your personal point of view there, or you just click on like or support. Those kind of quick actions. If it's like this for me, someone comments on my content, even I'm not having that much followers yet, but I still feel like, okay, what do you want me to say?
Yeah.
I can just click like back and that's it. So I guess there is something more, let's say, deep down that we can try better.
Absolutely. So first of all, let's talk about who you should comment on, and then we go into what you should comment on.
Yeah.
Like in what way? In terms of who to comment, I say you should do a bit of like a three-part approach. 50% kind of should go to your ideal customers. So sometimes it's a little bit tricky on LinkedIn. If you're not having a Sales Navigator license, if you just have your normal LinkedIn, your home feed is kind of messy with a lot of like different people popping up. So what you can do, you can hit that notification bell on some of the people you're desperate to work with. So you get a notification whenever they're posting. So you should focus 50% of your efforts onto your ideal customers. If you have a Sales Navigator license, just for anyone who wants to invest in that, by the way, as an ex-LinkedIn employee, you keep premium access for free for the rest of your life. But if you want Sales Navigator, you have to pay, and you have to cancel your premium subscription, and you can never go back to the free premium subscription. And I made that decision to cancel my free premium subscription, and I now privately pay for Sales Navigator because I wholeheartedly think it's a brilliant tool. So just saying that I have no affiliation with LinkedIn anymore. I don't get any money by saying this, but it really is worthwhile for anyone who is really serious about LinkedIn, because on Sales Navigator, you can create a list of all your ideal customers. You can nicely find them, easily identify with like amazing filters. And then you have a separate home feed on Sales Navigator. So what I do now is that on a daily basis, I go into Sales Navigator and have a look at my ideal customers, what they have been posting. And it's just so much easier to comment. Mm-hmm. Anyhow, 50% your ideal customers. The other like kind of 50 or 45%, so a little bit less, would be bigger creators in your industry. So that means people that are, if you are at around 1,000 followers, that are at 5,000 followers, maybe 10,000 followers, those are the people that hopefully have your ideal customers in their audience. So by commenting under their posts, hopefully your ideal customers will see you. And also they might then accept your connection request, and it's always good for like a peer-to-peer side of things to build your network. You can also put in some really big creators. I'm talking like the Tony Robbins, the Gary Vaynerchuks, like Mel Robbins, those really, really big ones. Because if you are the first person that comments under their post with a good comment, and we talk about this in a second, then you get so many eyeballs onto you. I currently, with that commenting strategy, I get around like between 1,000 and 10,000 impressions with just my comment. That is so many people seeing my name and clicking onto my profile just through the commenting. But you need to set yourself an alarm. You need to know when they're posting. I know Stephen Bartlett, he is huge in the UK and in the US. He posts every day at 8 a.m. I'm on LinkedIn every day. You need to be like, if you are, as I said, like you can achieve great things on LinkedIn, but you have to be dedicated. And yeah, I make sure I'm one of the first people to comment under his post. And the last like percentage, like the last 5%, or like those should be the people, your friends, your family, those ones that you want to support, but they actually don't really help your business. You're just being nice and we don't want to neglect them. And then when it comes to how to comment, AI is an absolute no-go. If we can see that you use AI, you diminish your credibility instantaneously. As an example, I have people in my network from third world countries, developing countries, etc. And I know I'm a white woman, I live in the Western world. There is so much like stigma and everything around it. However, those people, oftentimes, they really take the time, they read my posts, they add value, etc. And I love those comments. Whereas sometimes I get comments from white, middle-aged men in like senior positions, and they use an AI comment. Like that credibility is gone. I don't want those people. And you shouldn't be that person that is using AI, because it's just so frustrating. So never use AI. Ideally, always try to add value to the post. You can either ask the author another question, a meaningful question, not an AI-generated question, like a meaningful question where you're genuinely curious about how they felt or what else they would like want to say. You can add your own opinion. So if you're commenting under your ideal customers' posts, you can then showcase your expertise in that industry by adding value to the post. So instantly they see, oh, you know what you're talking about, you know what you're doing. And the third way of leaving comments, it's a little bit of a cheeky one, but by showing your personality through, in my case, I love to use humor. I love to use a GIF or a meme because it shows this is who I am. And I also want to show that LinkedIn can be a fun place. So my own commenting strategy currently is those big creators, as I said, like the Stephen Bartletts, the Mel Robbins, etc. I normally just leave like a funny comment, a meme, something quick and easy. If you just say wow or well done, that doesn't do much. However, a funny meme, it triggers emotions. It makes people laugh, it makes people feel good about themselves, like it lightens everything. Whereas if you just say like, great, that doesn't do anything to me. So this is a quick way to do like the big creators, the big creators. But then for my ideal customers, smaller creators that I still want to engage with, I try to add value. That's the commenting strategy. Sorry, I know it is very in-depth and very complex, but that works.
Yeah, those are really, really nice suggestion. And I saw the meme that you put under several posts, and I really think that it makes me feel like, yeah, like you said, LinkedIn can also be a fun place. It doesn't always need to be like talking top to down and be super serious. And that also makes me feel you are more close to us, I would say. Like, I would more tend to try to interact with you, ask you questions, or I don't know. It's just somehow that feels it's more like a person instead of a machine, or
Exactly.
just like someone trying to build their credit and not being a real person. Like
Exactly. Sometimes it
AI.
just feels so forced. So I'm commenting for the sake of commenting because I need to comment. It doesn't feel genuine. So I rather, put something in that makes people laugh, that looks funny, that is just like, as I said, like triggers emotions in some way. And
Yeah.
also, if you have on your LinkedIn profile a really good profile picture that is like colorful, bright, zoomed in, you're smiling, and you have a really good headline, because the headline is always shown with your profile picture. Because when you do that commenting strategy and you have a bad picture and a very boring headline, nobody will click on your profile. But if you have a headline that is curiosity inducing and a really bright, good professional picture, people will click on your profile. And this is then on your profile. If your profile is set up like perfectly, this is how you make sure they follow you and connect with you.
Yeah. And if we talk about the connections strategy, because like you said, when we are small, it's really hard to keep in touch, or let's say, yeah, we can like do what you said with comments, but it's really hard to get someone that you think you can bring value, but without any, let's say, connections.
Yeah, it is difficult. And a lot of people look for the shortcuts. Like, what are the quick ways, either through automations, or they just send like 20 connection requests a day to like whoever and just sending it out. That doesn't work, especially when you're smaller, and you have to be really careful. On LinkedIn, if you send a lot of connection requests and only a few people accept it, that raises a flag internally in LinkedIn system, and that might flag you as someone who is spamming, using automation tools, etc. And you don't want your account to get blocked. So you have to be like really conscious who you're sending a connection request to and how you do it. So again, let's talk about who first, and then I tell you how. Because in terms of how, when you have a premium license, you can include a message, and this is so important. So I highly recommend at least have a premium license. If you buy Sales Navigator, you have premium automatically included. So Sales Navigator is like the non plus ultra. But if that is not affordable, which I also completely understand is not the cheapest tool, premium absolutely is worthwhile. And also you get like a free access for 1 month. So at least give it a try. If you think it's worthwhile, keep it. If not, get rid of it. So in terms of who to connect with, again, follow a 50-50 kind of approach, because if you only connect with your ideal customers, it might be that they are not really active on LinkedIn, which is fine if you connect with them like over DMs, etc., but they will not help you amplify your content. Ideally, you want to have a mix of following that also helps you amplify your content whenever you put out content. So for example, if you work in marketing professionals are more likely to leave comments on LinkedIn. If you work in like data governance, they probably are not as active on LinkedIn. So you want to connect with your ideal customers, no matter whether they're active on LinkedIn or not. And the other 50%, you want to connect with people who you know are already posting on LinkedIn. So the way how I do it is I look at a bigger creator in my industry that hopefully has like the right customers in their audience. I go onto their latest posts from the last few days, and I have a look who has commented under their posts. And again, with the headline, you can kind of see what it is that they do. I then click onto their profile to see, yes, this is my ideal customer or not, because you don't want to waste your connection requests for anyone that is not worthwhile. You can only send 20 a day, so you want to make them count. So when I go through like that commenting list, so I'm on a big creators post, I look through the comments, I see the people that I think are worthwhile, I open them all in a separate tab. In the separate tab, I have all their LinkedIn profiles. This also means LinkedIn sees that you have clicked on their profile before you connect with them. This is also good, again, because if you send a connection request without having looked at someone's profile, LinkedIn will also think you're spamming. So that will help for LinkedIn to think you're on the right side. And then also the person will get a notification and they will see that you viewed their profile. So that is already them seeing your face once. Then under the big creators post with all the comments, I leave another comment under their comment. So I like their comment and then I leave a response. So they see, oh, I'm a real person. I engage with their comment. They're happy that I engage with their comment. And then when I'm on their LinkedIn profile and I send them a connection request, I then say, hey, I saw your comment under Stephen Bartlett's post. Love what you said about XYZ. I'm in the same industry, or I love to talk about the same kind of things, or I have the same struggles, whatever it might be that is relevant. Then you can say like, would love to stay in touch. And then I would always include an open-ended question. A question, open-ended in the sense of you want to trigger a conversation, so not just a yes or no answer. And also the question shouldn't be too personal or too difficult to answer. So what I like to use is just saying, how is LinkedIn treating you these days? You, even if you're not a LinkedIn person, you can still ask that question because LinkedIn is the common denominator for you both to connect with. So this is a question, it is professional, it's not too personal. It's just something to start the conversation, because what you want to do in the DMs is getting to know the person more and more, and you build credibility. So that strategy means you connect with people, your ideal customers, who are not afraid to comment publicly. That also means when you connect with that person, they hopefully will leave comments under your own post. I'm fully aware that I'm probably lost half of your audience by trying to explain this because this is so strategic and advanced. But if someone is taking notes, like this works. This is so good and valuable. What you can also do, just to take it up a notch, you can go under a big creators post from a week ago or something like this, because they most likely will not look at that post anymore. They will not look at the comments anymore, but they still probably get some comments. You can go through all the comments that have a question that the author has not answered. And you can go into the comments, you can answer that question because you are an expert in your industry, and then send them a connection request and say, hey, I saw your question under XYZ's post. I have replied to the comment with my own expertise. Not sure if you've seen it, but would love to discuss this more. Again, it is a grind in the beginning, but this is the perfect strategy for someone who has a small following to build that credibility and to get that connection request accepted, because otherwise your chances are so slim. And then, as I said, LinkedIn might restrict you if you just go wild and try to connect with anyone.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. And like you said, I believe if someone is really listening carefully and they take the notes, it's going to help them to structure their actions. For example, like me, I was like, okay, I know maybe I can do this, I can do that, but I'm not so sure how to make it as in, like, let's say strategic wise. So that's really helpful for me, and I'm going to try it.
Good. Let me know how you get on. And also, it sounds so complex in the beginning, but once you start doing it, you realize, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Like it gets so easy. It's just in the beginning when you start out, you think like, what the fuck am I actually doing? It all gets easier.
Yeah, that's true. And let's say if someone is super ambitious, they don't want to do 20-20-20, they want to do 40-40-40 to double it. Would you encourage it? And is there any downsides you think it can happen? Because like you said before, if you just send too much in one time, maybe LinkedIn will think you are a weird account and things can happen in a bad way.
Yeah, all right. So the way how LinkedIn assesses in the background whether you're a bot or not is through like kind of a scoring system. Again, nobody has like true insights into how it actually works, but they will see if there's an account that was quiet or is a new account and has hardly done anything and suddenly goes all in, that is a flag and you might get restricted. So it's good to do like a bit of a ramp up, build your audience, and as you build your audience, you can then invest more and more time. What you can safely do, more or less safely do, is commenting. There are restrictions to how many comments you can leave under someone's post, but this is only if you leave comments too quickly, because this is then where LinkedIn thinks like, oh, this might be a bot. But if you actually leave a meaningful comment and you click on people's profiles, etc., you can leave as many comments as you want. So that should be fine. It's just like the speed if it happens too quickly. So commenting, you can absolutely scale that up. It will have a great impact. In terms of connection requests, you can only send a maximum of 150, so you're limited with that. And when it comes to DMing people, here also you can only DM people that you are connected with. If you have a Sales Navigator or a premium license, you can send DMs to people you are not connected with, but that is a strategy that is very advanced and mainly just for like corporate clients. If you're an individual and you just want to grow your audience, connect with everyone first and then DM them. Don't send a DM without being connected. In the DMs, you can send as many DMs as you want per day. So you can also up-level that. What I do every day on my LinkedIn, I have a look whose birthday it is on that day, and I send everyone a really nice birthday message. And I also ask, like, how are you celebrating yourself today? Because what I want is, again, I want to encourage that conversation. And so that is one way. You can also, for International Women's Day, I send a whole bunch of women in my connections a DM and just saying, Happy International Women's Day, how are you celebrating yourself? Those kind of things. Because the algorithm, again, just to reiterate, loves engagement. So even if you're connected with that person already, but you haven't spoken with them in like months or never before, that is a great way to just have like an easy conversation, and then the algorithm will send your post to them when you do post. So in terms of scaling it up and going above and beyond, stay within the 20 connection requests per day, but you can go wild on the comments and the DMs as long as they are high quality. And when it comes to posting, yes, you can post multiple times per day. That is absolutely fine. But then also, again, if you post a lot of content and hardly anyone engages with it, LinkedIn will also flag it as spamming behavior. So quality over quantity. I post every day on LinkedIn, no exception. I mean, I say no exception. It happens that I'm not posting every now and then, but genuinely, I say I force myself to post every day, but with high quality content. So if someone wants to build an audience, try to post every day with really high quality content. That is already a challenge in itself. So make sure you know what you're posting. It is of value. It is relevant for people every day. Yeah.
And when you say post every day, it also includes the weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. Weekends are brilliant to post. So LinkedIn predominantly as an audience has professionals, and they mainly use LinkedIn from Monday to Friday. And the best, like overall on LinkedIn, the best posting times are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the mornings, depending on what region you're in. However, if your ideal customer is a senior executive or a founder or a solopreneur, those rules don't apply, because senior executives, they're in back-to-back meetings during the week. The best time to catch them might be on a Friday afternoon or at the weekend. Same with founders and solopreneurs. They oftentimes catch up on work over the weekend when everything is a little bit more quiet. So every day, I will post absolutely every day. What I do in terms of like my content strategy, I post a few lighter posts at the weekend. So at the weekends, I normally post a bit more like inspirational, motivational content, more with like my personal picture. But then those in-depth like cheat sheets, infographics, highly educational content during the week.
Well, that's really something above my understanding, because there are lots of people saying just don't put any time on weekend because no one is checking LinkedIn, but you are giving me very different insights.
No, I had my viral post at the weekend. Actually, my best posting day is on a Saturday. So it completely depends on your own audience. It completely depends also, if you think about it, if you're in a region where they don't work on Fridays, for example, you know that it's just completely different to like another region that have like a different religion where they would work on Fridays, but they don't work on Sundays. So it completely depends on your own audience.
Yeah. And what do you think about the LinkedIn groups and about the company page? Are they really helping?
Not really. This also, we can also talk about LinkedIn newsletter, because that kind of like is all in like the same kind of bracket of like LinkedIn tools that you think great to use, but actually they aren't really doing anything. So what we've seen, and I say we as in like LinkedIn creators who have big followings, we all talk to each other. We all try to figure out what's working, what isn't working. And what they all say is posting in groups is not really doing anything. It doesn't really, it can even one creator, a big one, he has over 1 million followers. He even says that he was working with a client, and once they stopped posting on the groups, their impressions shot up. So actually LinkedIn, kind of like you're doing something that kind of like restricts your growth if you're posting in groups. So you can use groups to identify who your ideal customers are, to find them and connect with them and say like, hey, we're both in the same group. But in terms of visibility for your content, groups aren't doing much. And then in terms of company pages, forget company pages in terms of trying to grow your business. Like, it's just, if you are a big company, Coca-Cola, Tesla, those companies, they use the company pages to attract talent, like employees. They use the company page to show what the culture is like, how it looks like working at that company, etc. But this is only for people who are actively interested in that business. You can't post anything on your company page and hope it goes viral. It doesn't. The LinkedIn algorithm highly prioritizes personal content, and it will only show company page content to existing company page followers. And how are you attracting them? Either you can pay, but also don't spend any money on LinkedIn ads. Whole other topic, but also just to sum it up, save your money. So yeah, company pages, it is good to have one for credibility. It looks good on your profile. You can put on your logo. There's more information if someone is interested. Do that, but then use your personal account, and you can repost with your company page a few of the personal posts that you think are good to have displayed on your company page. But this is it. And then leave the company page aside, unless you're a big, big business. But then we talk about a whole different strategy that is probably not relevant to most of your audience. So let's not dive into that.
Yeah, got it. And how about the newsletter? I saw there are two ways of doing it. First is like they don't really open the function on LinkedIn for the newsletter. They just link with their, maybe the kit, the Convert kit, or other newsletter subscription tools. And some, they open both, and they try to take LinkedIn newsletter as one of the funnel. And in the end, they will bring more traffic to their other platform subscriptions. How do you think about the strategy?
Yeah, you're already thinking about it in like the right way. So on the one hand, LinkedIn newsletter is great because you can invite people to subscribe to it. So this is a good way, like an easy way to just send it to all of your connections and say like, follow my newsletter. And yes, most likely a few people will click accept, either by accident or they're genuinely interested. However, if you do that, LinkedIn owns the email addresses. You never have access to the email addresses. You can never see what someone's email address is. So that also means if LinkedIn shuts down the newsletter functionality tomorrow, you lose them all. If LinkedIn completely shuts down, you lose them. So they are not yours. So that is just so restrictive. What we want with a newsletter is to deplatform. We want to minimize our risk and making sure that our business is sustainable by having email addresses. So you can put out a LinkedIn newsletter and then later on try to convert them onto your normal newsletter. But I honestly think the best way is just to do a proper newsletter externally from LinkedIn from the beginning through a good lead magnet. You need to provide value. Like, what are they getting for giving you their email address? How can you prove to them that you provide so much value that subscribing to your newsletter is worthwhile their time? Because you want to have a good open rate. Like, there is no point in having a newsletter with hardly anyone opening it. So have a good lead magnet, provide a ton of value on LinkedIn, make it very clear on your profile that you have a newsletter, subscribe to the newsletter to get what? Like, tell the audience what they get by subscribing to your newsletter, and try to grow it as early as possible. And I'm saying this because I haven't got a newsletter myself yet. I'm currently working on one and it should go live soon, but I wish I would have done it earlier. I really wish I would have done it earlier. So no matter how small or big you are, yesterday was the best time to launch your own newsletter.
Well, that's really helpful for me because I'm also considering about this strategy. Which one should I do? Because for me, why I'm still considering to active the LinkedIn newsletters because of it will also automatically send a notification to who is following me or maybe the new followers that I have a newsletter. Would you like to subscribe it or not? So I think that's helpful for marketing, but in the end, that I will definitely lead them to my own platform, that which I can get the lists, specifically the email you said.
Yeah, you need to weigh off what is the cost of having people on your LinkedIn newsletter and then trying to convert them over to a different platform, or maybe having a bit of a slower growth on a different platform, but it's set up properly in the beginning. And I think that is the best way to do it. Also, in terms of your content, as we were saying with like the marketing funnels, if you have a newsletter, people who subscribe to your newsletter, they are already like kind of bottom funnel people because they are so invested in you. They already know you and they like you so much that they are wanting more. So what you can do once you have a newsletter, you can post on LinkedIn predominantly top and middle funnel content and not ever sell on LinkedIn. And you only sell through your newsletter, because with a newsletter, you don't have an algorithm in the way. You reach everyone. So this is just a great way, if you have an offer, to not be like, oh shit, LinkedIn hates like offers.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is a brilliant way.
Yeah, that's really important and critical to have the direct way to reach your audience. And if we talk about, let's say there are some countries like Taiwan, when you go on LinkedIn, most of the time, most of the user, you see they're actively using it. It's more like HR or headhunters, or maybe several entrepreneurs that would like to go abroad. So if you are the user from this country and let's say your circle is kind of small, sometimes it's really hard for a new user who would like to go bigger to reach out more people, like you said, meaningful connections. And that also make them concerned about, is it really useful for me to grow my business in this kind of environment? I wonder, what is your perspective? What is your point of view about this kind of situation? Should they just drop it or they should try to thrive it?
Definitely stick with it. Definitely fight it. I think there are two ways on how you can approach it. One way is to kind of like cheat your way through it, which I wouldn't say is the best way, but I know a lot of people do it and it works for them, which is basically you change your location to a different country. You say you are in Europe or in the US or wherever you want to be. You pretend you're already there and then build your audience in that way. As I said, some people do that, fine-ish, not really. But the other way, which is a little bit slower and might be a bit more tedious, but it builds more credibility, is by being upfront and open about it and telling your audience also what your desires are. So you put your location where it is, and you just need to make sure you have a perfectly set up profile that explains your background, your expertise, your desires for the future, the value you bring to the table, and then put that into your content as well. And you can connect with then audiences in other regions where you want to get more visibility in. It might be a little bit slower, but also, for example, the way how you reached out to me, you have been very transparent about what it is that you're doing, what you're trying to achieve with your podcast, where you're at, etc. And this just made me in the end say yes, because one, always happy to help, but also on the other hand, it's like, I understand where you're coming from. I understand what you're doing. I love the hustle and I love what you're trying to achieve. And you have been very professional and everything. So this is, if you're doing it in a very professional way, authentic way, stay true to yourself, but just clearly explain what your ambitions are. And then in terms of like your connection requests, etc., focus on the people in those regions that you want to penetrate. And when it comes to language, like language barriers, LinkedIn has an easy function when you post in a different language and you have a following of a different language, they can easily translate it. However, and this is actually really silly to say, because I used to work at LinkedIn and I had no idea that you can literally click on show translation. I only figured that out a few months ago, which is ridiculous. But that also means in theory, you can post content in your native language, and any international connections, they can click on Show Translate. However, if your main goal is to go to a different country with a different language, then you should post in that language. So let's say you're in Taiwan, but you would like to get your foot in the door in the US, you need to post English content. That also means your Taiwanese audience, they can click on Show Translate, but it will be more of a hurdle for them rather than your ideal customers. So yes, if you want to have an international audience, you need to post in English. And yes, it might slow your growth down a little bit because your existing audience might be in a different language and it takes more time, but this is just the best way.
For, let's say, based on my experience, it was like painful when I started to post in English, because when I post in, let's say, Mandarin, it can sometimes easily reach 10,000 impressions, and I got lots of interactions. When I start to post in English, it goes like 82 impressions, 0 interactions. And back to 1 month ago, the best performance was 303, I guess. It's really, really, you feel like, what am I doing? Like, I built a big audience back to my country, but now I'm like nobody, and I need to start again, and I don't know where to start. So that's really something that you need to bear with. And but for now, when I post in English, it goes to 3,000 impressions, and that makes me feel like I can try to make it better and better. I feel like I'm going on the right way, and follow Alicia, and we can see what we can learn from her and then implement in our way.
Yeah, I love that you shared your own example there, because what is happening is, if predominantly your audience is Taiwanese, the way our LinkedIn algorithm works is you put out content and it will be sent to your first degree connections first, the people you've recently been in touch with, etc. And if they don't engage with it, LinkedIn will basically think like, oh, your content is so shit that not even your friends are liking it. So there's no way we're amplifying it. And that means if you're suddenly posting in English, most people maybe don't understand it or just don't have the energy to really think about it, or click on that Show Translate button, and therefore it doesn't perform as well. You could, in theory, build your audience in Taiwan and then shift to English, but you would have the same effect. You would just have like a bigger amount of following, but you have to go through the same struggle. So I think it's just easier from the beginning, doing it in the right way. It is painful in the beginning, but exactly as you're doing, collaborate with other people. Don't try to like aim to have an interview with Stephen Bartlett or Mel Robbins, but find creators that are a few steps ahead of you. If you're at 1,000 followers, find someone with 5,000 followers. Try to do a collaboration with them, maybe like a joint carousel. Like, for example, the other day, I've done one with another content creator, and we put both our faces onto the first page of the carousel, and then we share both of our insights. Do those collaborations, they will share to their network, etc. So grind your way through, work your way up. It's like climbing the ladder, but always look at like someone who's a little bit further ahead of you, who can help you get more people in. And as I said, like, it goes up exponentially. You are currently in like the fucking hardest bit. Sorry, stick with it. It only gets better. It only gets better.
Yeah, this is really like, you can see if someone already walked through the stage I have, that you can really understand what I'm facing and what are the challenges. And I think, like you mentioned before, there's a really important mindset is, instead of just being a followers, one of the 10,000, you should really, let's say, show yourself you have some value. Either it's really you can talk in the same level, either it's you have something specifically professional that you can add on, maybe under their post or share with them in DMs. I think that's really important. Otherwise, let's say when you face to a big followers, they might just think, okay, just one more guy coming today.
This is so good that you're saying this. This is so important. What makes you different? Why should someone follow you over another person who does the same thing? Like, I see this all the time with career coaches, let's say. And they just say like, I help ambitious professionals accelerate their career. All right. but what does this actually mean? And this is like what you see on so many profiles. And I think, why should I work with you over this person? So one, showing up authentically with personality, but also thinking about what is your unique angle? What is your experience? If you have been a dancer, or you do yoga, or you love baking bread, that already is a differentiation. I know this is not in the most professional way, but think about anything in your life. What makes you super unique and different? Because nobody can compete in being you. Nobody can, like, if you create your own kind of category, if you create your own service offering, like your own persona, nobody can compete with that. And you need to hone down on your uniqueness.
Yeah, got it. There are some people concerning that, should I show my face? It's not about I'm shy or something. It's more about like privacy part, about personal safety, about family protection, those kind of concern. And you choose to show your face on your profile, and you choose to make it as possibly as it can to go, let's say, viral. What do you think about this kind of topics? Have you ever have any concern about this?
I personally didn't, but also maybe I'm a bit more naive, or I'm happy to take the risk. I personally believe the more people know about you, not like too personal, but like the more people identify with you and see who you are, the more you also will be invited for like speaking engagements, podcast interviews, etc. There are some content creators that only put out infographics, cheat sheet, text only posts. They are also doing well and they have a good business. However, they will not be invited on speaking engagements and all of those things, because people don't really know what's the person behind, like how do they articulate themselves, etc. So I think if you need to be aware what you want in your life. Like I, for example, I want to have that visibility. I want to be on stages. I want to be on podcasts. Like this is what I want to build my personal brand, because this way I know there will be more business coming to me and I don't mind putting my face out there. But other people who might be more private, just be aware that like in nowadays time, people want to see the person. We crave the human connection. We crave to see the vulnerability and the person behind the scenes. There are statistics out there that basically say the next $1 billion business will be built on visibility first before a product. So, you know, there's like mainly UK examples on top of my head, but like there's a lady called Grace Beverly. She literally launched her own gym brand out of her bedroom and she documented everything. She's now like Forbes 30 under 30, like millions, best-selling book. All of those businesses, Gymshark, Ben Francis, again, like it's a UK example. There's so many creators that now come up and have those big businesses. Gymshark is valued at $1 billion. And the creator economy will just grow and grow even more, because people, when they make buying decisions, the number one factor is trust.
Yeah.
And in order to build trust, you need to show who you are. And this is how people trust you. So the best way in my eyes is to build a personal brand, but to build a personal brand effectively, you have to show yourself. And yes, there can be risks involved. And also, I must say, I'm from Germany originally. I live in the UK. My circumstances are very different than in other parts of the world. So it might be easier for me to say that. But you need to see whether the risks are worth it. And in my eyes, I think they absolutely are.
Okay. Do you only run your personal brand on LinkedIn, or there's also other medias that you are using, like Instagram, TikTok? How do you choose your media?
Yeah, it's actually really funny that you're asking, because I'm currently reading a book by Alex Hormozy. Absolutely love him. And he is talking about, should you go down on one platform first, or should you do all the platforms simultaneously? And he is saying, so currently, to answer your question, I'm only on LinkedIn right now. However, I'm thinking about venturing into, I would love to go onto TikTok, because I love video, I love the creative side of things. So yeah, maybe TikTok. But basically, the advantages of going with one platform first and nailing it is because you really understand that platform and you're doing really well. Because if you spread yourself too thinly, you put out shit content on all the platforms and it's just very time intense. So basically saying, if you go down with one platform first, and then expand to other platforms, because then also you can take your audience to the other platforms. So I can put out a LinkedIn post and say like, hey, I'm on TikTok now, follow me on TikTok. And I will instantly have a few hundred, I don't know, followers on TikTok. If you have time and budget and energy, you can also go on all the platforms straight away, but you need to make sure you have a team that really helps you, that really understands each platform really, really well, help you with that content. But doing it on your own, I would rather go on one platform first and then expand later on.
Mm-hmm. And what about the website? Why I'm asking this, because of when we talk about short videos or let's say social media, there was a chart saying that most of the time the short video only take like 2 days alive, and then it goes down. Some even just dead in half day because it doesn't goes viral. But when you put your content on Google, let's say website or anywhere, then it mostly can live for maybe above 1 year, and AI can also find it. So you might be recommended on the AI results. So what do you think about it? Are you going to build a personal website?
Yeah, good question also. I don't have a website myself yet, but this is purely because I just didn't have like the headspace. I know it is good to have a website for exactly the reasons that you're just mentioning, because when we see how do we nowadays look for information, we mainly use AI. Like sometimes I Google, but most of the time when I look for something, I ask ChatGPT. And if you're not being found on ChatGPT, but also then you need to really understand like where does ChatGPT take the information from? Like Reddit, for example, is like one of the key sources for ChatGPT. Anyhow, there are experts who help you with like AI searchability, but having a website helps. It's for your credibility, it looks professional, and it helps for people outside of LinkedIn to find you. In my case, my business is literally LinkedIn. So a lot of people find me via LinkedIn. However, B2B companies, like I've worked with FedEx and with Samsung, they came to me on LinkedIn, but I know a lot of other companies, they still use Google to look for like LinkedIn workshop. They're not looking on LinkedIn to find LinkedIn workshop because the search functionality is shit on LinkedIn. So I know I need a website, but I haven't dedicated time to it. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And is there any plan coming up, or is there any events you're going to launch? I know you have a WhatsApp group, right? Like, what is your, I'm just curious, what is your next plan? What are
Yeah.
you going to do?
So I'm still figuring bits out and I'm trying a lot of things. So like when I didn't have a newsletter, which right now I'm building, I wanted to have a WhatsApp group. So just that at least I do something and I like mobilize them of LinkedIn. So I have that, but I'm not actively like advertising the group anymore. I've done it for a while, but you can't find it on my profile. Like I'm not saying it anywhere. So I'm not growing that currently, but I still have it and I still keep it like alive. So this is just also my recommendation to anyone who is starting out. Don't wait to have the perfect website, to have like the perfect newsletter and everything. Just get started with something and then go along. And then, yeah, I would love to set up a website. I'm currently actually thinking about how I want to evolve my own business, because right now I'm just waiting what comes into my DMs, and then I do like a profile revamp for one person, and I do some ghostwriting for another person, and then I run a workshop for a company. But I want to make it a little bit more structured. So I have a community, a paid for space is like $29 a month, super cheap. But we come together like once per week. We ask each other questions, we figure out what's currently happening on LinkedIn, what is trending, all of those things. So I think what I'm going to do is I want to push my community a little bit more, and all of those requests for like, I need help with my LinkedIn, or can you help me with my strategy, or can you do this? In the past, I was always jumping on like one-on-one calls, some of them unpaid, some of them I asked for money. It was all very messy, but also very time consuming. And how do you scale if you only have 24/7, like per week, like anyhow? So I want to funnel them all into my community because this is where I can scale it. And then I would love to focus a bit more on the B2B side. So have like a proper website that focuses on how can I help businesses like the FedExes, the Samsungs, Adobe slipped into my DMs. Like how can I serve the bigger corporations? So watch out, there will be a newsletter coming. My community will be a bit better set up, and there will be a website on the B2B side. That's the ideal plan. But you know what? When you're a solopreneur, you work in your business and you hardly find time to work on your business. So day to day, I have to do those client deliveries. I have to pay my rent. So I say yes to a lot of things, but I also have to deliver them. But then I also need to think of like, oh shit, how do I advertise myself? That I keep getting clients? It's not easy, but I'm getting
Yeah. I guess that's why people start to buy their time back, pay freelance or something like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I personally, I'm really expecting to see what are the progress coming on, because I believe there are a bunch of things I can learn from you, and also I'm building a community by myself. And you know what? Why I start to build a community based on, let's say, WhatsApp group first? It's also because of you, because you said you do the WhatsApp, and I was like, okay, yeah, maybe it's also a good idea to do it in France market. It's working.
You know what? That makes me so happy. And I just wanted to ask what you want to do. So you also want to build a community.
Yeah. So the thing is, I'm a international founder living in Paris, but I cannot really find some existing communities that is specifically for these kind of people like me. So I just decided to build one, and in the end, it grows from like 2 to 10, and now it's like 40 something. And people are sharing the same idea and the same pain points. Sometimes they just want to get to know the market more. And also, there are some French founders, they would like to go abroad. So those kind of international founders coming from all around the world, they are your resource. And so for the moment, I'm just doing like casually. I organize founders breakfast, founders coffee in Paris, and some people, they would also like to join from online. So now I'm also linking with different communities all around the world, and I think that can bring some synergies, and there are lots of values between it.
Absolutely. And I love building communities because you meet people, you get to know people. You can ask them questions. If you need someone, they might recommend someone, they might recommend you. Like the more you can be close to your customers, like
Yeah.
the better. But also it doesn't need to be that you sell to them, just like being together and learning from each other is brilliant. And also a quick tip on WhatsApp, because I made that mistake twice in different ways. And I don't want you to make that mistake.
Yeah.
So when I first set up my WhatsApp group, I just did a normal WhatsApp group. And what happened is that everyone could see everyone's phone number. So people got scammed, like someone, like anyhow. So that went terribly wrong. And then I set up a WhatsApp channel, because then you can't see who else is in it. But what happens with a WhatsApp channel is that it doesn't really pop up in people's messages unless they have like a certain setting. So most of the people that I now, so first of all, I had 800 people in the WhatsApp group. Then trying to migrate them to the channel, I lost half of them. And then in the channel, only half of them will actually see my messages. So that is very frustrating. But what I found out now is you can set up a WhatsApp group with privacy, so people can't see each other's phone numbers. So that is probably the best way. And then you can restrict it that only you can send messages, or you can open it up and then people can chat with each other. And you can also close it down at some points, because when you get bigger and bigger, it can get really overwhelming. But then there might also be a cap, because I think you can only have like 2,000 or 3,000 people in a WhatsApp group. So a channel is unlimited. But anyhow, I just thought I'd tell you all of this so you are aware, because I had to painfully learn it myself.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing this. This is really helping me, because I'm also like newbies on WhatsApp, because in Taiwan we don't really use WhatsApp that much, and when I moved to France, I'm starting to use, but there are like lots of functions I need to sort it out. So yeah, I'm still learning, and really thank you for the sharing. Not only just WhatsApp, but also all of the informations and all of the insights you shared today. It's really nice, and I've learned a lot from it, and I believe that it's also going to benefit for our audience. So thank you for sharing this and take your time with us. And yeah, everyone, if you want to grow your personal brand, just follow Alicia on LinkedIn, and she will have newsletter and website and other social media like TikTok soon. So keep your eyes on it.
Thank you so much for having me. And I hope I didn't confuse the hell out of everyone in terms of how to use LinkedIn. But it is like a really good blueprint. So I hope this was helpful.
Yeah, I think it's very clear, and I believe everyone will love it. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.